What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Lions video. Now, over the past week, we have talked extensively about the Detroit Lions draft class, all the value that they got, all the talent that they got, the way that they are looking to build up this new Detroit Lions roster, as well as just all the good things that they were able to accomplish over the 3 days of the NFL draft. However, the Detroit Lions, Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell were not done building the team after the 257th pick, as right as that pick was selected, they went to working on their UDFA class, and as of right now, they do hold more than 14 members in that undrafted free agency class, with a couple key members that could not only push for roster spots, but a couple of guys that could even push for playing time come their rookie seasons. Now, before we get into this video, before we start talking about the first of those special players, if you're new to the channel and you're enjoying the content, please consider liking the videos and subscribe to the channel. It takes 2 seconds out of you to do so. It's quick, free, and easy, and you'd be helping the channel out more than you could possibly know. So if you could do that, take those 2 seconds to like and subscribe. I'd be greatly appreciative for it. But with all that being said, and without any further ado, let's get into looking at Sage Surratt, the undrafted wide receiver from Wake Forest. Now, as I said, the first UDFA that we will be talking about today, and one of the biggest undrafted free agent targets when UDFA market officially opened, was Sage Surratt, the wide receiver from Wake Forest. Now, Sage Surratt does stand at 6'3", 215 pounds at the wide receiver position, so he does have really good size for a wide receiver, and does bring some size and strength to a wide receiver core that throughout the offseason has really focused on speed and athleticism. Now, Sage Surratt does not fit that mold. He is not anything close to a speedy separation wide receiver, as his game, as you could tell from his size and weight, is primarily based off the jump ball and boxing out defensive backs. Now, Sage Surratt had a really effective career at Wake Forest, playing in 19 total games, having 107 receptions, which he turned into 1,582 yards, 15 touchdowns, while averaging 14.8 yards per reception. Now, unfortunately, he did opt out of the 2020 season, which may be a reason why he fell completely out of the draft. However, the last time he was playing on the field, he played 9 games for Wake Forest, had 66 receptions for 1,001 yards and 11 touchdowns. Now, Sage Surratt did this in the ACC. He did this in a Power 5 conference while playing teams like Clemson, while playing pretty good competition, as I said, again, a Power 5 conference ACC. So it's not like he was beating up on MAC opponents. It's not like he was beating up on Sun Belt opponents. Like, he played some really good competition week in and week out in the ACC. And with Jamie Newman, a quarterback that also went undrafted, he was able to put up really good numbers for a Wake Forest wide receiver. Now, as I said, Sage Surratt, his game revolves primarily around the jump ball. He is a jump ball wide receiver. He's a big body, box out, red zone threat kind of a wide receiver, and actually reminds me a lot of a guy that Anthony Lynn used to coach. I will say, even though Sage Surratt's game is not necessarily very good at separation, although he is not very good at creating separation on routes, and although he is not very good at getting, separation, he's not very good at getting away from defensive backs, he does have some pretty good yard after the catch ability. He's a guy that even when he does catch the ball contestedly, a lot of times he does break tackles. A lot of the time he does break off that first initial contact and can go for extra yards after the catch. He had a couple of touchdowns that way where he went up and just high pointed the ball, got there first, and even with a solid hit from the defensive back, he was still not able to be tackled, and he did take the ball all the way to the end zone for a touchdown. Now, as I said, this is not something that he does a lot, but it is something that he is more than capable of doing, and especially on things like screen passes, which he did get a couple of, or comeback routes where he did create a little bit of separation, just because, that's kind of the design of the route, is to sell and then come back and create that separation, right? He did run those comeback routes routes actually pretty effectively, and on a couple occasions did have some decent success. However, I will say on those routes, he did show some yard after catch potential as well, as again, just a big body guy, 6'3", 215 pounds, a very, very tough player to tackle in the open field and a very tough player to bring down. Now, this guy, Sage Surratt, does remind me a lot of Mike Williams, a Chargers wide receiver that Anthony Lynn has extensive experience coaching with. Now, I believe that Mike Williams had a very particular role in the Chargers offense, which was to be that big body jump ball wide receiver. He does not create very good separation. He does not run elite routes. He is not Keenan Allen, who's going to create a ton of separation. He is not a guy that is going to be, looked upon as a great route runner in the NFL, just like Sage Surratt is not going to do. However, Mike Williams, I think, is sneaky fast. I think he's a little bit faster than people expect. His 40 time is not incredible. It's not great for a wide receiver. However, I think he is a little bit sneaky fast. He does get behind DBs more often than you might expect from his testing numbers, and the same thing does apply to Sage Surratt. I believe he ran in the 4.7s. However, when you watch his tape, he is kind of sneaky fast, where he does get behind the wide receiver. He does get a little bit, does get that half a step, that full step behind the defensive back, and just, for some reason, some way or another, does get to the football first. So I think from that perspective, it is a really, really good comparison between a guy that Anthony Lynn used to coach and a guy that Anthony Lynn will be coaching a season from now. Now, I believe Sage Surratt will have a very similar role in the Detroit Lions offense as you saw Mike Williams have in his rookie season and throughout the past couple of seasons. Being that jump ball boundary wide receiver that you can just throw the ball up to and have confidence that, either he's going to go catch the ball or at the very worst, he's going to get a hand on it or two and you're not going to get picked off, right? I see Sage Surratt being really primarily a red zone threat his rookie season. He does not have the route running, doesn't really have the ability to be a full-time boundary wide receiver like maybe a Kenny Galladay or like a Mike Williams, who now does have a couple years of NFL experience. But I do think if Surratt does make the roster, he could see some time in the red zone. He is a big body guy who in the red zone, it's hard to create separation. So sometimes in the red zone, you just need that big body guy where Jared Goff can throw a fade and you can have trust and you can have faith that Sage Surratt or somebody else is going to jump up and just go get the football. That's what Kenny Galladay did. That's what Calvin Johnson did. Marvin Jones did that a lot. Like, that is a role in the NFL. It's not a huge role and it's not a role that is worth paying a lot of money for, but it is an important role nonetheless, because if you're not converting red zone trips into touchdowns, you're not going to win very many football games. As I said, Sage Surratt is a guy that, it's not a 50-50 ball when you throw to him. He's a guy that turns 50-50 balls into 70-30 balls. He wins the contested catch more times than not, and I think it's going to be up to him and between him and Jonathan Allen Jr. to compete for that role. I think both of them are going to be very, very critical in the Detroit Lions process. I think both of them are going to get a lot of time and a lot of significant snaps early in the preseason. And I think one of them is going to beat out the other for that jump ball, big body wide receiver role. They both do things very, very similarly. They both do things very, very well at a high level in as far as jumping up, high pointing the football, boxing out. And we will talk about Jonathan Allen Jr. tomorrow in another video. However, at the very worst, I think the worst case situation for Surratt is that he makes the practice squad. He is a very talented guy. He is a guy that likely should have been drafted. The big reasons why he wasn't drafted are his lack of separation, his lack of long end speed, and really just, not necessarily playing at the highest level or at the highest level of competition, right? It's not like he played in the SEC. It's not like he played in the Big Ten, and it's not like he completely dominated the ACC either. However, he was very efficient. He was very productive for Wake Forest. He's a big body, jump ball kind of guy, a wide receiver, and a skill set the Detroit Lions do not yet have on the roster. As I said, throughout the offseason, they focused a lot on speed. They focused a lot on separation and athleticism, and they kind of got guys that maybe have some suspect hands or guys that aren't really going to be able to just go up and simply outmuscle you to the football. Sage Surratt brings that to the Detroit Lions. He now brings that to a roster that didn't have it before, and that is why I truly think Surratt could be contending for a roster spot and for some playing time come the 2021 season. Now, with all that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Let me know what you guys think about the undrafted free agent wide receiver down in the comments below. Did you like the pickup? Do you think he could make the team? If he does make the team, what role do you see for Surratt in his rookie season and, of course, moving forward? But with all that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Thank you all so very much for watching the video. And until next time, and as always, go Lions!